The simple view of reading is a reading pedagogy that is comprised of two main elements: word recognition and listening comprehension. This pedagogy focuses on these two concepts as a means to educate children in their literacy skills. After being used for many years, the simple view of reading seemed to have a missing piece. Some educators started to believe that oral reading fluency was this missing piece to the SVR framework. Oral reading fluency is able to capture not only word recognition, but also oral language comprehension skills. And it's a significant predictor of reading comprehension. This was the missing piece to the simple view of reading that educators knew was needed in order to ensure that children and students were receiving the most effective literary instruction available. Over recent years, more and more scientific research has been done regarding the acquisition of literacy and necessary skills. Experience and anecdotal information are very helpful for the teacher. Most of the time, teachers rely on what they've seen and experienced in their own classrooms. But true scientific research is what really gives educators the information they need to provide reading instruction that will enable students of all backgrounds to succeed. This means that if a student who is unlike previous students comes into a teacher's classroom, that teacher is already prepared because he or she is well versed and knowledgeable about the latest scientific research regarding literacy instruction. This brings us to today's most talked about or notable research method, which is called the science of reading. This is a research-based pedagogy influenced by several years of scientific research, and it joins how students and children learn to read with instructional practice. Here in Alabama, the Alabama Literacy Act, which was passed in 2019, will use the science of reading to change the way Alabama educators teach, evaluate, and assess literacy for students in grades K through 8. But how do we know if the science of reading or other research-based methods will work? Well, when educators search for effective research-based curriculum, we must ask the following questions. Does the program comprehensively cover each of the evidence-based skills that students need to read proficiently? Has the program or approach been scientifically proven to work with students like mine? And the most important question is, how can I be sure of these things? To be sure of these things, we must be able to recognize effective research. We can do this in many ways, but three of the most important ways are through scientific evidence. That the evidence from the research is based on actual scientific research using the scientific method, not just evidence and anecdotal or experience and anecdotal evidence. We should also look for quantitative research, research that draws reliable inferences regarding a cause and effect. Research that is qualitative focuses on just a retelling of a study. But we need to look for quantitative research where we see a direct correlation between the cause and effect. And thirdly, we must look for converging evidence. Using one study as support for a new method is not enough. We must see the evidence ring true in multiple studies in order to know that the research is truly effective and the best use for educators in their classrooms. The current developments with literacy research comes with, in the state of Alabama, the Alabama Literacy Act. This act is going to be implemented in this upcoming school year, and it will change many things in our education program here in Alabama. One major change will be in teacher education programs across the state. More rigorous reading science classes are required to be provided by teacher education programs. And those programs will also be required to focus on professional development for literacy instruction. And then changes will also be noted in the classrooms and in the schools across the state. Educators in grades K through 3 will be tasked with screening students and making those early identifications of reading deficiencies, and also providing intensive intervention for those who are struggling. Third grade students who are not reading on level will not be promoted to the fourth grade until they have met those requirements. We will no longer simply pass students through to the fourth grade and beyond just because of age. They must be able to read on the third grade level before they can go further. And then also, local reading specialists will be hired and utilized in every school. These are just some of the main changes we will see in the next school years to come. This video is just an example of one of many that have been put out by local school boards. This is actually from Sheffield City Schools, and this is how they are communicating the Alabama Literacy Act with their parents.
Hello, my name is Shelley Hollis, Curriculum and Instructional Specialist with Sheffield City Schools. I have some important information for our K-3 parents concerning the Alabama Literacy Act of 2019. This Literacy Act was established to improve the reading levels of students in K through third grade and to ensure those students are able to read at or above grade level by the end of third grade. This is achieved in part through monitoring students' reading progress from one grade to the next and tracking their growth. Sheffield City Schools uses a number of different tools to identify and monitor our students' reading abilities. We screen all of our students with the STAR test to establish a baseline of reading skills. This will be administered in the fall, winter, and spring. Your child may have been identified as having some reading difficulties based on this assessment, along with other classroom observations and assessments. If this is the case, you will be contacted by your school through a letter inviting you to have a conversation with our reading specialist and other school personnel who want to help your child become a better reader. We also want your valuable input and feedback on a support plan that we will create together for your child. You may be wondering what our current teaching of reading looks like. Every child receives high-quality, systematic reading instruction every day. This is followed up by small group instruction focused on specific skills each child needs to be reinforced based on data and observations gathered by the teacher. Additionally, some children who need further instruction may be pulled out for an additional 30 minutes later in the day to continue working on foundational reading skills. The support team for your child's reading success will provide regular updates on progress through reports, phone calls, and other forms of communication. If your child demonstrates a consistent reading deficiency, we will work with you to implement the best support plan to put your child on a track to read on grade level by third grade. Beginning next year, the Literacy Act does prevent promotion of a third grade student to fourth grade if they are not reading on grade level as determined by our state assessment, which is called ACAP, or other ways that prove reading proficiency. So, how can you help as a parent? Read to your child daily for enjoyment. Point out words, letters, labels, names, etc. on everyday items. Be patient as your child learns to read. Talk to your child. Ask them questions. Communicate with your child's teacher frequently. Check homework each night. Working together, we can help your child succeed and develop a love of reading. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me here at the Board of Education or your child's principal or teacher. Thank you very much.
As you can see, this new act, based on scientific research regarding literacy acquisition and instruction, will change not only the way our educators instruct and teach reading and language arts, but it will also change the way we communicate with our parents to encourage them to be a partner in reading instruction for all students.